Chiefs franchise changing moments.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
You are Locked On Chiefs, your daily Kansas City Chiefs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to another episode of Locked On Chiefs. I am Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. He's Ryan Tracy from RGR Football. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the franchise-changing moments this franchise has had over the last 10 years-ish or so. Well, a little bit more than 10 years with the first one. But we're going to talk about what could be next. What is another big franchising-changing moment a little bit later in the show. Next thing, we're going to talk about Alex Smith, his time in Kansas City, trading for him and trading him away. But we're going to start with Andy Reid. And if you're here and you listened to yesterday's show, we are going to get to the defensive changes that are coming, and we will be getting to that next week. But we wanted to touch on this right now. Andy Reid changed this organization, and it is never going to be the same at this point.
No, I mean, this is the culmination of getting to that point, because there were some dark years before Andy Reid got here. I know everyone wants to remember and should remember with fondness the Vermeil years with Priest and that O-line and Tony Gonzalez and all those throwbacks, right? But you forget about, and let me say this. I love Herm. I'm a Herm guy. But it wasn't exactly the best performance that we've seen in the Kansas City Chiefs history, right? And then you got to the dark days with Haley, and it really needed a lift. And I think that's probably something that all the success that we've seen the last few years has backtracked on us and made us forget that this was an absolute changer for the franchise's like momentum. Never mind the result where we got Super Bowl wins, multiples. It was just changing all the honestly decrepit nature of what was in the building at the time.
Yeah. And you look at what they came from. I mean, the Scott Pioli era, Todd Haley and Romeo Crennel. And I like Crennel as a coach, especially as a defense coordinator. It just didn't work as a head coach. But the Scott Pioli era and the entire shift that Andy Reid brought in here. And we should probably have an asterisk, because with Andy Reid came John Dorsey, and that kind of changed the player personnel a little bit too. And I think that also changed things going forward. But Reid is the tone setter. He's the tone setter for the entire organization, regardless of his position as just head coach. He is looked at as head coach and not GM necessarily, because that's Veach's job now, but he still has a lot of input on the players. And he is the face of the organization. If you're talking about the coaching aspect or anything that isn't player specific, he is the face of the organization just because of who he is and what he has built this team into. And this team revolves around him.
Yeah. And it has to, and he's used to it. And it does that. And Doris was here and Veach is here because Andy tried to do it all once and it failed miserably. And that's the problem, is there are too much to do in this league these days. As we've gone from a league that used to play 12 games in a season, and now you literally cannot go a week without NFL news. It just doesn't happen. Even as we sit here in early July talking about things that are still pertinent. If you missed yesterday with Matt Derrick, go check that out. If you missed earlier in the week when we were reminiscing about some of these things, make sure you check that out, because there's always something going on. And that is more true for the Andy Reid era than from any era before it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do think that when you look at what Andy Reid brought to this team, it was culture. And his establishment of the culture of this organization has changed this organization for the future. And I think that's really where I'm going with where I wanted to go with this whole segment is you look at what Andy Reid came in and brought in and established. It was from the top of the organization all the way down. And let's not forget, he basically got fired in Philadelphia and was on a plane the next day to Kansas City.
Yeah.
And never left. Because Clark Hunt knew what he wanted. And I'll give Clark Hunt credit. He was one of the biggest reasons, obviously, that Reid's here. But you look at what Reid has done for this organization, and it is just fantastic to see. Because besides last year, which you dealt with a ton of injuries, and I think just players were worn out. I think that's a lot of what last year was just players that are worn out from as long as they've been winning. It's hard to win as many games as Kansas City has done. And you look at Mahomes' run until last year, he had been in every AFC championship game in his career when he was a starter. That's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, I'm just looking at Andy Reid's record here. Last season was only the second season since he came to Kansas City that they didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Ever. It's nuts. And that expectation has changed the franchise as well, to the point that they're making, huge investments in stadiums and new facilities and new options on the support staff and the coaching staff. Chief staffs, football staffs across the league are bigger than they used to be.
Well,
this whole era is grown.
And think about if you're Clark Hunt and before you hire Andy Reid, so, you're talking, 15 years ago, right before you hire Andy Reid, somebody tells you that in 15 years, you're going to have the highest paid player that's ever played in the NFL. I don't think Clark Hunt would have believed you. I'm not saying that Andy Reid planned on having the highest paid player in the NFL. My point is Clark Hunt, because of how this organization has grown under Andy Reid, you have the ability to do stuff like you have done with Patrick Mahomes' contract. And because of how Patrick Mahomes has played, he has forced you to get creative as to how you can handle that contract and still keep a talented team around him. But it all starts with Andy Reid. And that's the other part of Andy Reid that has made him such an amazing coach, is that he literally tries to get the best out of his players, and he doesn't try to make them change. He tries to take what they do best and focus on that and push that forward. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that he hasn't taken Mahomes' mechanics and gotten them better. What I'm simply saying is that he has taken the things that made Mahomes special, which is his improvisation, and allowed him to continue to do it, but just put it into his system and kind of push that forward. And look at what he's done with Travis Kelce too. I mean, Travis Kelce came out, he came out as a guy that was going to have a questionable career, and now he's going to go down as one of the best tight ends of all time.
Yeah, I mean, square pegs, crazy pegs fitting into the Andy Reid system is the biggest, I think, coaching endeavor that he's had. And he's been here for a very long time. So it's not just that he changed the course of it, but he stayed the course of it for this franchise.
Yeah. It's just phenomenal to watch. And when we get back, we're going to talk about Alex Smith and his impact on this team, both when they traded for him and when they traded away Alex Smith. That's coming up next.
The biggest stage in world soccer is here, and every match feels like it'd be a potential for a memorable moment. One goal can completely change the energy of a game, shift the momentum, or alter the final income in an instant. That's what makes tournament soccer so exciting, from the opening whistle to the final kick. And now FanDuel is giving fans another reason to stay locked on to every match with every goal plays. Bet on a match and you get bonus points for every goal scored in that match. More goals means more bonus bets. All you have to do is turn in the token. You might be waiting around. I want to see Norway play. Always have to see the USA and how their run is going. There's plenty of games top to bottom all over North America that you can get in the action on and get that benefit from every single goal scored. From the opening whistle to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started now.
And when you look at biggest changes and biggest franchise changing moments over the last 15 years, it's hard to say that the two trades for Alex Smith, both coming to Kansas City and going away from Kansas City, going to Washington, were not two of the biggest moments that have happened to change this franchise. Don't get me wrong, drafting Patrick Mahomes certainly changed this franchise, but trading for Alex Smith and being able to get a guy that could come in and establish the offense that you wanted to run it well enough to have the success that they had making the playoffs the first year under Andy Reid, and then to trade him away, making a statement, trading him away to give the reins to Patrick Mahomes after Smith took him to the playoffs the year before.
Yeah, I mean, it's one player making two huge impacts. One to lift the team out of the muck, to be honest, and set the table for what Patrick Mahomes would get to play with eventually. And the other being a big enough person at Andy Reid's direction to really take Mahomes under his wing and understand, as a guy who has his story, which his draft, by the way, was the first draft that I actually put anything out of my metrics. So I remember those days very, very vividly. And for what he went through in his draft cycle to then battle his way through the Niners organization, get to the point where he could be in this position as a Chief, maybe play his best ball ever, honestly, to begin that last season, and then go take another franchise and get them off the mat. I think we undervalue what he did in Washington, to be honest, because he had such a short and vivid impact on this franchise that we don't, I think, stick in our mind enough just how much both the trade to and the trade from the Kansas City Chiefs affected the Chiefs for Alex Smith himself.
Well, and you look at what he was able to do in Washington and probably continues to do in Washington for at least another year or two after, but except for the injury. And the injury obviously changed the course of his career and horrible thing for him, but I'm glad he's, at least recovered, at this point. But you look at what it meant for the organization to go out and get a guy like Alex Smith, who was the number 1 overall pick, and you bring him in. He hadn't done what you expected a number 1 overall pick to do. And don't get me wrong, there were still frustrations, and there are right frustrations by Chiefs fans and by people that want to talk, by analysts and whatnot that talk about the Alex Smith days, like he was a check down guy. And I get that. I'm not saying you're wrong. He, generally speaking, was throwing short of the sticks, taking the easy pass and making it easy in a lot of ways. But it was effective, and it got the offense to where it needed to go. And then his year in 2017, when he saw the writing on the wall that he was getting replaced, he knew exactly what he needed to do, and he went out and did it and had his best season ever. And I think he took that with him to Washington because he realized, okay, I can do this at a little bit of a different level than I have been doing, so I'm going to continue pushing to the next level.
Yeah. And it made all the difference in the world, not just for him, but for the expectation that was set, for the precedent, the level of play that everyone on the franchise except Patrick Mahomes knew they had to raise their game to get there. And once they were able to do that, Patrick comes in, and even in his departure, Alex Smith set up what Patrick would become, but also what the level of play, especially on the offensive side, had to be in order to help Patrick become that.
Yep.
Because he had demanded that. He had set the expectation. And that expectation, I think, raises the whole franchise.
Yeah. And I know we've talked about this a couple of times, but we're never going to be able to give him all the credit that he deserves for what he did. And his desire to be a selfless teammate and basically take Mahomes under his wing and say, this is how you should do it, this is what you should be doing, has gotten Mahomes to where he is. And Mahomes has said that multiple times. He's always been very complimentary of Alex Smith. But you look back, and if Andy Reid doesn't go out and trade for Alex Smith, I don't think this franchise is in a position to compete year one. I don't know when they're going to be able to compete, because the reality is that first draft, that 2013 draft, when Andy Reid was coming in as your head coach, they got Eric Fisher. And that was the best pick for him. Don't get me wrong. You can make an argument that there were some other tackles, but there was no QB to be taken. It was Geno Smith. That was the year. So you have no choice of getting better at that position. And that is a position where you have to be better. And they go out and they get Alex Smith. They bring him in. He does what he did and took him to the playoffs multiple years, wasn't able to get past where they wanted to get past, and they drafted Patrick Mahomes. Smith comes in, has his best season in 2017, which allows them to trade him to get more to bring in Kendall Fuller and a draft pick to go with this team on Patrick Mahomes' back. And then Mahomes comes in and has the amazing 2018 season that he had. It just completely changed the franchise bringing in Alex Smith.
Yeah. And honestly, it changed us too, because the event when he was traded away to the Commanders, we were live with Seth Kaiser here on this show. Yep. And we do lives sporadically, folks. If you're new to us for some reason, you will catch lives from us fairly often. So make sure that you're subscribed and your eyes are peeled for that, especially when we get in training camp, because you never know what we're going to do. But that particular moment will always stand out to me because of how we realized right there how earth-shattering that was for what this dynasty was about to become, the takeoff point. And to his credit, Alex Smith handled it like a champ and allowed, I think, that momentum to continue that he had built.
Yeah. And you look at it, and I will never forget recording and being live with Seth during that when that news hit, because the thought process was, okay, what are they going to do next year? Can Alex Smith be the answer? Can they do it again? And then all of a sudden you get the news, Alex Smith has been traded, and the mind shift from the thought of Alex Smith is your starting quarterback to they're giving the ball to Patrick Mahomes after Alex Smith just took him into the playoffs. And yeah, he wasn't able to get the job done, but he took him into the playoffs and was successful. That wasn't enough for this organization to keep him as their quarterback. They moved on to Patrick Mahomes in 2018, and then the rest is history. When we get back, what could be next for franchise-changing moments? All right, this is the fun one. And I'm going to let you go ahead and throw one out there because I know where I want to go with what I think could be next or the next franchise changing moment.
I mean, there could be a number of them. And for those of you that are asking, I'm just trying to double check. We were on a different host back then. I believe it was episode 1214, if memory serves, that night with Alex Smith. If you want to go back and find it, you can probably find it in the archives of our feed. I will try to do that for you as well.
We weren't on YouTube at that point, I don't believe. We were just on audio.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it is only on the audio side, but that just kind of sets it all up. And
we lost our minds. Sorry.
Yeah,
I just want to be honest.
It's entertaining. And if I had a backup of it, I would pull it up right now, but I'll have to go find it. I think that the key thing is that there's so much in place in Kansas City now. What could be next is really an area that one of the areas that has been deficient of late, right? I don't think there's going to be a redefining moment on the offensive line. The only redefining moment at quarterback is going to be if there's some delay in Patrick's return, which we now looking at and don't feel that that's going to be, right? So for me, it's probably going to be pass rush, or it's going to be some kind of takeaway monster in the secondary with some of the new players that they have. But most likely it's the seismic shift that could, and I think should, come from acquiring a number one tailback that is worth the money that they gave Ken Walker.
Yep. That's exactly where I was going. You look at that move, and the reason I call that franchise changing, and the potential for franchise changing, I should say that, is because it is a seismic shift in the way that this offense has been built over the last 10 years. They have gone away. They'd gone away from investing in the running back position. The last real investment they made in the running back position was drafting Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the 2020 draft with the first-round pick. After that, they really didn't invest in it. They gave him a 7th-round pick, whatever. A couple 7th-round picks. That's not an investment into the running back room. Giving free agents a $5 million contract or bringing back in Kareem Hunt's not an investment that I'm talking about into the running back room. You look at what they've done in this offseason, and it goes beyond just the players. You talk about Kenneth Walker getting the contract that he got. He's already not the highest paid running back anymore. He's already been leapfrogged, I think, twice at this point. But it goes beyond that, because you bring in DeMarcado, who is, maybe just a piece, but then you go out and you get Emmett Johnson in the draft. But it goes even beyond that, because you get a brand new running back coach, and you bring back Eric Bieniemy, who was a former running back coach. You have completely changed your, and I want to stop just short of saying you've completely changed your offensive philosophy, but I will say you've completely changed the way you were presenting that you're going to be running the ball. At least from the investment standpoint that you've made into it, it looks like you're going to be running a lot more than you ever have in the previous 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, and when you think about it, what this era of football has become is so quarterback centric that you forget about how a lot of the greats got to be great. Terry Bradshaw had Franco Harris. Joe Montana had Roger Craig. Obviously, Jim McMahon and the greatest football team to ever live in 1985 had Walter Payton. Like there is a series of things that go through the history of this game where a two-pronged attack, both in the air and on the ground, is what defines some of the greatest teams that have ever played this game. And to see the Chiefs buy back into that, even though I don't think it's going to be a wholesale change, I don't think this is anything other than more protection for Patrick, not that you want to dial down Patrick's effect, because that makes no sense. Because I don't think, other than the injury, there's any reason why he isn't still the top quarterback in this league, the best arm in this league. Josh Allen might be able to give him a run, but still.
You want to take pressure off of him.
Right.
That's what you're trying to do with this.
You want to run a well-rounded, supportive offense for your quarterback.
Yeah. And give him the option of having somebody that can carry the offense other than just him trying to figure out how I'm going to get every first down in the fourth quarter. Like, have a running back that you feel like can go out there and have vision to hit the right hole, or to bounce something outside or bounce it back inside if it's not there on the outside. Like, they haven't had vision. It's basically been hand the ball off and you'll get 2 or 3 yards. I think their most explosive run last year was probably 10 yards from Kareem Hunt, a guy that shouldn't have explosive runs when you're talking about the two guys that were the running backs. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Pacheco had a longer run than that, but it wasn't many. And then you're looking at what you brought in with Walker. It's a completely different ball game. You have a guy that is going to be full of explosive runs. And the other thing that I will say is, you can't go out and make a signing of Walker. You can't even think about going out and making a signing of Walker without having a conversation with Andy Reid first and saying, is this something that you want to do? Because the type of investment they made in Walker means that they have to use him, which means Reid is going to have to change his offense to use the running game more, and specifically try to use him in the best ways possible.
Yeah. And how that comes about, what that looks like, is what I'm probably the most intrigued by, because it could go a number of ways. This is not going to look, in my opinion, like it did with Jamal Charles, where it's just get him the ball in as much space with as much runway as you can and let him do his thing. Even when Andy Reid got Jamal Charles, right? I do think it's going to be more measured, and it's going to be more strategic in the way that you deploy him. How you choose to game plan around that aspect of the game, which has to be a bigger percentage, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming, and it doesn't have to be totally against the rest of the offense. It's about that mesh that I think we could see. Yeah, absolutely. It's cohesive.
Yeah, it's about getting this whole offense to work in the same direction and get them to all go and work together and to be a better offense and to be more well-rounded. So when you go out there for a 2nd and 4, nobody's going to be thinking it 90% of the time it's going to be a pass. Like, when you look at the Chiefs last season, it was, if it's 2nd and 4, it's more likely going to be a pass, because generally they're not going to be able to get a first down on a run. I mean, that's just the reality of it. They weren't getting the yards per carry. And I'm not saying Walker needs to be anywhere near what Jamal Charles was for his time frame. I'm just saying I expect he's going to be over 4 yards a carry in this offense, because the other thing that he has that is going to be helpful to him is he is Patrick Mahomes. So teams are going to have to respect Patrick Mahomes, and vice versa, they're going to have to respect Ken Walker. You didn't have to respect Isaiah Pacheco last year.
Right. And I think Ken Walker's going to see some light boxes to begin the season, because I think they're still probably a little bit wary of, okay, how's Andy going to use him? Is he really going to be as threatening as he was in Seattle, et cetera, et cetera? And then he's going to help Patrick later on, because I think he will draw some of that attention. And that's where I think this has a chance to turn into a franchise-changing moment, is when they have to give that respect to the running back. It puts Patrick back where Patrick wants to be, fighting single-man coverage, fighting man coverage, fighting things that he knows how to dissect instinctually on the go whenever he wants. I think that's Patrick Mahomes at his best.
And that's where I think that they're headed. Let us know in the comments what you think. Let us know where you think the next franchise-changing moment could be, or if we've already had it. That is going to be it for us today, and we will be back to talk to you more tomorrow.